I was thinking maybe we could go out sometime.
No, you're a dork.
I'm in law school.
Oh boy. I'm in law school is a terrible pickup line. At least, I don't think it's a pickup line. Is it a good pickup line? Have I wasted my life?
Now you're thinking like a lawyer.
Hey lawful legals, it's time to think like a lawyer. Today we have a special treat. We are doing a famous, most popular, analysis on Legally Blonde.
I've waited so long to hear you say that.
Let's dig into Legally Blonde and put on your most appropriate pink clothing.
This is gonna be just like senior year, except for funner.
I plan on running for office someday.
And I fully support that, Warner. You know that, right?
Absolutely. But the thing is, if I'm gonna be a senator by the time I'm 30, I need to stop dicking around.
Warner, I completely agree.
Well, yes, to be a senator in the US, you have to be 30 years old, and you basically cannot be a senator if you're less than 30 years old. This guy is kind of a weirdo.
You have no idea the pressure that I am under. My family has 5 generations of senators.
My brother's in the top 3 at Yale Law.
It would definitely be a big deal if you were in the top tier of going to Yale Law School. As you know, Harvard Law School is one of the best universities in the country, but I think the rankings have changed over time. Yale Law School graduates usually go to the Supreme Court or clerk for the Supreme Court. Yale Law School is ranked the top tier university in the United States. Yale is more prestigious than Harvard. Harvard is usually known as a better university.
Well, I have to think of my future and what my family expects of me.
So you're breaking up with me because you're afraid your family won't like me? Everybody likes me.
Well, East Coast people are different.
Yes, East Coast people are definitely different. East Coast people are definitely different if you are coming from another state in the United States.
Harvard Law School?
That's right.
But that's a top 3 school.
Oh, I have a 4.0.
Yes. But your major is fashion merchandising.
This is a common misconception where it usually says you need to have another degree before going into law school. And law schools, in my experience, really don't care what your undergraduate major is, as it won't prepare you for law school or becoming a practicing lawyer. But even though Elle Woods has a degree in fashion merchandising, definitely won't matter when it comes to becoming a lawyer. And it seems like she came from a good school, and same school from her boyfriend went to, and I doubt that particular major has particular effect. On the other hand, it could actually, and law schools are inundated, which have different degrees before going into law school. They could have history major, English majors, or any major. But if you have a degree that is interesting and that stands out, that you want to go into a particular legal specialty, that could actually help you get into law school. But for the most part, your undergraduate major has no effect.
What are your backups?
I don't need backups. I'm going to Harvard.
Well then, you'll need excellent recommendations from your professors.
Okay.
And a heck of an admissions essay.
That part is true. And to get into Harvard Law, everyone goes through the same online system. In order to become your application for most schools, you have to attach 2 letters of recommendation, and same online system. Every law school requires a personal statement, an essay that you'll submit to the law school.
And at least a 175 on your LSATs.
Yes, a 175 on your LSAT is very high. But in Elwood's, when she took the test, she got 179, which is like almost the top. The highest you can go is about 180. And that's the highest amount of score that you need to get to Harvard Law School, which you need a 175 and above is the best, LSAT score. But if you get a 179, that's the best. So the law school LSAT score ranges from 120 to the top 180. And it's not understandable why they put those ranges. It should be like 0 to 100, but instead they're doing from 120 on the LSAT all the way to the top 180 on the LSAT. So if you go from 170 to 180, you're on the 99th percentile of all LSAT test takers, and your chances to get into Harvard are pretty good.
Oh, here. You're gonna need this.
Your scrunchie?
My lucky scrunchie. It helped me pass Spanish.
You passed Spanish because you gave Professor Montoya a lap dance after the final.
Yeah. Luckily.
Oof, that is so bad and did not age well.
Oh, hi. My name is Elle Woods, and for my admissions essay, I'm going to tell all of you at Harvard why I'm going to make an amazing lawyer.
And I don't need to say that sending a video as your admissions essay is the wrong thing to do, because what Harvard's going to do is they're going to chuck it out. So doing a video is not good. There's no way in hell that it's impossible literally to upload the video to the application when you're applying for law school. This is because there's no way to do it. And even if you mailed it in, then there's high chances that they're going to chuck it out.
A. Neither type of opera or neither type of rap is on sale. B. Neither type of jazz and neither type of opera is on sale.
So what they're hinting here is a specific type of question that shows up on the LSAT. It's called a logic game, and you're given a fact pattern to basically give you logic to find out the correct answer and specific things that happen in the fact pattern. And people find it very hard, as it requires problem-solving mentality and problem-solving tools, and people sometimes don't really have that intuitively. And you have to learn that when you're practicing for the LSAT in the LSAT class. And the practice for the LSAT is such a counterintuitive test.
Get set and go!
This is very good, because this is showing that she's putting in the effort in preparation into before taking the LSAT exam. What she is doing is having distractions and practicing the LSAT before the real thing, because that's a really good way, and it's a habit which can really help in these kind of really tough tests when it comes to the LSAT. Taking the LSAT is not silent, and is often the way that we study for the LSAT exams, any exam for that matter, and practice exams. And you're likely to do, better if you practice in the before the exam, because high chances of you are very high and to succeed. A 179 on the LSAT is very high, and it's very good in terms of getting into Harvard Law or any high-ranking university in the US that is like Ivy League, for example. So credits to in her situation, she's done very, very well. And the LSAT would be extremely ordinary high number and perfect test, and out of all the 100 and 101 questions, and maybe missed one or maybe 1 to 3 or whatever in that situation in the entire exam. And this was recorded before the LSAT required a written portion of the exam, and before it was all multiple choice. And really good job, Elle Woods. And it's very, very good. And it would make it very, very easy of herself by doing more practice tests. I'm sure she did that anyway.
Hi, Woods, L.
Class schedule, map, book list.
Wait a second, my social events calendar is missing.
Your what?
Social events, mixers, formals, clam bakes.
So they're talking about law school, how there's lack of social events. But in my university, we have social events like mixers, formals, summer thing, going to the bar and, chatting, and we have other events as well in law school. That's a good thing about my law school in particular, because they have really good events all year around when you're in law school. But in her situation, Elle Wood's situation in Harvard, they probably have a lack of events, because it's as a 1L, it's very full on, especially there in the US.
The part where we go around in a circle and everyone says a little bit about themselves. Let's start with you.
My name is David Kidney. I have a master's in Russian literature, a PhD in biochemistry, and for the last 18 months, I've been deworming orphans in Somalia.
Awesome. What about you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm Enid Wexler, got a PhD from Berkeley in Women's Studies, emphasis in the history of combat. And last year, I single-handedly organized the March for Lesbians Against Drunk Driving.
Killer.
Thanks, good times.
Aaron Mitchell. I graduated first in my class from Princeton. I have an IQ of 187. And it's been suggested that Stephen Hawking stole his brief history of time from my 4th grade paper.
Cool.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Elle Woods, and this is Breezer Woods, and we're both Gemini vegetarians. I have a bachelor's degree in fashion merchandising from CULA, and I was a Zeta Lambda Nu sweetheart, president of my sorority, Delta Nu, and last year I was homecoming queen. Oh, 2 weeks ago, I saw Cameron Diaz at Fred Segal, and I talked her out of buying this truly heinous Angora sweater. Whoever said orange was the new pink was seriously disturbed.
Well, yeah, there you have it. If you have another degree that is interesting to you, it's good to have it with you. Like, basically, there's a conjoint program here, or I'm not sure in the US, but having another degree, undergrad, before going into law school is very good. So yeah, that's very good. This is another person who doesn't have a pre-law degree, which is, good for her, but, it'd be nice to have a pre-law degree. My pre-law was reading a lot, doing practice reading, so I'd get into the hang of reading. In the US, they have bar review, but here in my university, we still go to bar, but we don't call it bar review. And it's in the US, it's usually on a Thursday night, but here it depends when they create the event. They don't have it every Thursday. They have it when they have the event on. So they even do meet and greets. They have a thing called WALSA and ALSA. ALSA is like like the Waikato Asian Law Society, and WALSA is Waikato Law School Association. So different, but they do the same thing. Even in my law school, they have like mentoring events. Even ALSA has mentoring events, and even they have WILA, which is Waikato Law School Association, which is so they have different associations in my view, and so overall it's very good, because you need to socialize, make connections, which will very help when you become a practicing attorney.
Education means you will learn to speak in a new language. You will be taught to achieve insight into the world around you and to sharply question what you know.
Looks like this law school has a handle on the situation.
The law is reason free from passion. Does anyone know who spoke those immortal words? Yes.
Aristotle.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Would you be willing to stake your life on it?
I think so.
What about his life?
I think that the Socratic method is a terrible way of teaching. I think they should just do the lectures without asking questions. And what it is for is you should attend tutorials, and do those tutorial assignments and discuss. That's what it's for. So I think they should do like we have in New Zealand. I think we should have, or in Australia, we should have not a Socratic method, but we should have regular teaching.
I assume all of you have read pages 1 through 48 and are now well-versed in subject matter jurisdiction. Who can tell us about Gordon versus Steele? Let's call on someone from the hot zone.
Oh my god, the Socratic method is like the worst thing ever, and it should not happen in the US. But I reckon they should just have regular teaching. The good thing about my university is that we have a question and we put up a hand that the lecturer will answer. And that's the best way of teaching, because US Socratic method is no good. Yes, in the university law schools in the US, it is a popular thing called the Socratic method, where they put you on the spot and you have to answer. That's why readings are very important, and it has happened to many people. So the Socratic method came from Socrates' method. There is a form of questioning used to stimulate critical thinking and to reveal a student's underlying presuppositions. But in US law schools, I'm sure a lot of people hate the Socratic method. This is a style of teaching in the US that you will find in most law schools, which is the Socratic method. But the good thing about my university is we don't have Socratic method whatsoever.
I warn you that in addition to competing against each other for the top grade in this class, you will also be competing for one of my firm's highly coveted 4 internship spots next year.
I have definitely not heard of a professor who is in Harvard or any university that offers some kind of clerkship in the summer. But in my university, we have job openings where you can apply for these summer clerkship positions. And that's really good way to get on hands-on work to practice before going into the real legal profession. It gives you some kind of idea what it's going to be like. So the good thing is we have positions at different law firms, which is really, really good because that's the best way of doing things. Yeah. In this movie, Legally Blonde, it's kind of weird to be offering a position to people who get the best grades. But in my university, we don't have that. You just apply depending on how well you've done in first, second, third year, and then you can apply for summer internships or into law firms to get some, work done, to know what it's like to work in the legal profession as a summer associate. In the US, I think it's a bit different, but if you in my university, if you want to, you can apply for some kind of teaching position for tutorials based. So that's a good thing. But in my university, you have to get kind of some ranking to become a teaching assistant. So that's a bit different. That is quite different to what we have in my university. You can apply as a teaching aide to do some tutorial work because we don't usually we don't rely on certain grades to get a teaching assistant job. It depends on whether you're interested to do that position. The best thing is summer internship or working as a clerk in these firms for summer. And when you come back, you'll be with on your CV, when you have some kind of done work in law firms, then you'll be interviewed by the top law firms in the country, because that's the best way of doing so. Because doing practice in a law firm during summer is the best way to get recognized by other law firms. So this is accurate. I know in my university you can't do some kind of summer jobs in first year and second year, 1L and 2L. When you reach 3L and 4L, then you can definitely apply for summer internships with these law firms, which I'm planning to do at some point because I want some hands-on work before becoming a practicing attorney. So then they recognize my the things I have done in my summer job as a in the law position, or a law job as a summer clerk.
Now let's commence with our usual torture. Ms. Woods, would you rather have a client who committed a crime malum in se or malum prohibitum?
Neither.
And why is that?
I would rather have a client who's innocent.
Dare to dream.
Using Latin conception that lawyers are spouting Latin all over the place. In reality, you really want to minimize of legalese or Latin terms because you don't want to overcomplicate words and phrases, and you want to be as persuasive as possible and really down to earth as possible. And so whether you are drafting something to a law, as a senior partner in a law firm, or talking to a judge, or giving some kind of notes to a judge, that really very rare that you're going to use obscure Latin phrases. So in my terms, I don't think using Latin is a good way to do things in the law firm, or wherever you're doing some kind of practicing law. You should never use Latin terms unless you have to. For example, eye for an eye, Lexis talionis, that is Latin.
To dress up.
Really?
I feel like we barely get to see each other since we've been here.
Oh, I know. I'm so busy with these case studies and hypos.
As your first year 1L, you're inundated to reading cases, and you're doing that like on the spot in your tutorials. I remember when I was doing 1L, we were given this library thing where you had to, do reference for the first time in a legal way, and we had to, read cases, make a video on a specific assignment. We also had to thing called the portfolios, where we have 4 assignments. So we have basically the legal opinion, case analysis, and that goes toward the finishing the 1L part A. And yeah, so that's how it goes.
This is gonna be so much.
Oh, Al. Come on, you're never gonna get the grades to qualify for one of those spots. You're not smart enough, sweetie.
Wait, am I on glue, or did we not get into the same law school, Warner?
When everyone goes to the same law school, all bets are definitely off because people... Can you do that one again? In Alwood's situation, when everyone goes to the same law school, all bets are definitely off because people assume that when you go to law school in that particular place, they say that these top law students will get the highest, will go into the law job as a summer clerk, but everyone who does well will have top grades. These law exams are all about application, applying the law to the facts. In New Zealand, we have a thing called IRAC, the issue, relevant law, the application to the facts, and we have the conclusion. But sometimes we can't write it like that. Sometimes it's more like a legal opinion. It's not like an engineering exam where they ask you about formulas or whatnot, because in engineering, they ask you more like you have to analyze what the question is, and then you have to answer in a mathematical way, because that's what engineering is all about. It's about applying the concepts of engineering, where they give you a problem and you have to answer it by analyzing it and doing some kind of mathematical way.
You filed a claim. What next? Ms. Woods?
Don't you need to have evidence?
Meaning?
Meaning you need reasonable belief that your claim should have, like, evidentiary support?
That was a stupid question and a nonsensical answer. And this is not a good example of dialogue between professor and a student at the point of the semester.
I completely agree.
And the purpose of diminished capacity is...
To negate mens rea?
Yes, that's a reasonable, definitely a really good question to ask. And assuming that it is a criminal law class. And that was a really, really good answer to answer in this lecture. Mens rea is a Latin term for guilty mind. A person must have the intent to commit the crime, that which is called mens rea.
Dewey Newcomb?
Who's asking?
I'm Elle Woods, Miss Bonafonte's attorney. And I'm here to discuss the legal situation at hand.
Come again?
Do you understand what subject matter jurisdiction is?
No.
I didn't think so. Well, due to habeas corpus.
Oh no, Elle Woods. Don't do that. That's bad news. Do not do that. That's completely nonsense. That's to produce the body in this context.
You and Miss Bonafonte had a common law marriage, which, heretofore, entitles her to what is legally referred to as equitable division of the assets.
Yes, that's a real phrase that used in legal divorce proceedings, but it doesn't apply here, and it is insane.
Come again?
Due to the fact that you've retained this residence, Miss Bonafonte is entitled to full canine property ownership, and will be enforcing said ownership right now.
Oh boy. What has Alice done here? And she has pretended to be an attorney. And she hasn't even finished law school. And she has never passed a bar. And she has no right to call herself as an attorney. And when you do that, it's called the unauthorized use practice of law. This is called the unauthorized practice of law, and penalties range from misdemeanor fines to felony incarceration. And she has held herself out as an attorney, and she has essentially committed a fraud against this other person, and she, as a result, she's committed a huge ethical violation, and she could be disbarred. If people found out what she did, she could be disbarred from any state of practicing in the United States as a lawyer or attorney.
From the prison, our client apparently had a visit from her sister, a Miss Delta Nu.
How much are these students spending on a criminal law trial as they're only in their first 1L of law school? Harvard is not like Yale Law School, and they have gone away with letter grades. And if anything, letter grades are better than Harvard than anywhere else. And how are they even spending hundreds of dollars on hours a week spending on this murder trial as an intern in a top law firm that the lecturer is working for? They're spending so much time on this criminal law case is they're going to fall behind and not be able to do the readings, and their grades will drop tremendously.
Did you ever take Mrs. Wyndham on a date?
Yes.
Where?
A restaurant in Concord where no one could recognize us.
And how long have you been sleeping with Mrs. Wyndham?
3 months.
And your boyfriend's name is?
Chuck.
Right.
This is a method used regularly in for trial attorneys, and the tactic is to get the witness in a habit of agreeing with you, and you ask a string of questions, and it doesn't have to be a rapid fire in here, and you ask unobjectable questions that you know the answer to, and you know the witness is going to answer yes or no. And it's only at the end, when you train the witness, when you ask the question that you really care about, and it is too late. And it can work like that at sometimes, sort of. The judge has to keep control of the courtroom, otherwise prejudicial. The jury should not take that into account, and the defendant really should call that man, Chuck, back to the stand and ask him questions about his relationship with the prior witness. And I have a feeling they're not going to do that because basically malpractice, and that guy should be on the stand, should get a reaction to the testimony and establish the other witness has On one hand, there's accurate depictions of law school, studying hard for the LSAT and getting good grades. On the other hand, a lot of legal tropes make absolutely no sense and completely gibberish when it comes to legal realism.
I object.
Now it's time to give Legally Blonde a grade for legal realism. Discussions and malpractice in the middle of a trial. So I would give this Legally Blonde a very, very gracious C+.